Hola, namaste, hi everyone, welcome to my session. Today we're going to talk about Azure SQL Managed Instance HADR options to ensure business continuity. First of all, thank you DPS team for having me here. Honestly, it's a huge pleasure being here for the first time, so thank you. I will start introducing myself. I am Gonzalo Bissio, a data and AI specialist working at Microsoft. I am from Buenos Aires, Argentina. The most important thing, there you have my contact, my email, my Twitter. Also, you can find me in LinkedIn, so just feel free to reach out to me in case I do need anything. Let's start with a quick introduction about Azure SQL MI, among other things. The first one is, hey, what are the options that we have today in Azure SQL family to host our database? The first one, SQL Virtual Machine. I mean, you will be moving from on-premises to the cloud to an infrastructure as a service model. It's a VM. I mean, you will be able to move your database. You will not need to take care about the infrastructure itself, the storage, the virtualization, among other things. And that's it. It's simple. You can choose your VM type. You can choose the storage, the number of CPUs, the memory, and that's it. This will be the best option in case that you have a database, I would say, greater than 16 terabytes and that you need to do some stuff like cross-database queries and you don't want to do too much changes when you are migrating your database. This would be the best option. Or in case that you are using FileStream, for example, you want to move to the cloud, okay, the best option will be the virtual machine. The best service in the world, managed instance. This service is a platform as a service. It's almost 100% compatible with a VM or a server, I would say, on-premises infrastructure as a service. It's almost 100% compatible. Amazing stuff. Well, a lot. I mean, the product team is doing an amazing job adding more and more improvements to this service. You will see that every month you have some new things. Also, we are testing some new capabilities, first in Azure SQL MI and then in on-premises or infrastructure as a service. You will be always on the latest SQL Server version because the team is updating this service all the time. Besides, you don't need to take care about future migrations. This will be only one time because, as I mentioned before, this service is being updated all the time. So, I mean, it's amazing. And the third one is an Azure SQL database. It's a database as a service in case that you want to move your single database from the source to a service. I mean, yes, you can do cross-database queries. You will have to use an external service sometimes. Every time that you are migrating, you don't have the time to do a bunch of modifications. So, I mean, sometimes the best option is Azure SQL MI, but it depends. It's an amazing option as well. Things that you need to consider depending on the option that you choose. Well, here you have what you need to do, what you don't need to do, or what you don't need to take care of. Here you have the information. Service tiers. Why we are talking about service tiers? Well, whenever we choose or we create a VM, it is easy to identify or to say, hey, I want to assign this number of cores, this amount of memory, this storage, and that's it. So what will be the option that we have in Azure SQL MI and also Azure SQL Database? Something that we call service tier. Every time that you want to assign compute to your service, you will have to choose a service tier. So here you have some differences. Today we are going to talk about HA, this one here, HA or Recovery Time Objective or RTO. We are going to talk about, hey, how are we protecting your service behind bars, for example. So we are going to cover that today in a few more slides. I'm not going to talk about right now because we're going to talk in a few. But let's talk about high availability. Let's talk about disaster recovery. How many times you receive the question, hey, how are we protecting our service? If this service is a core service, how are we protecting it? So let me start with some architecture examples. How can we protect our service? Because sometimes it's, okay, I am moving one of one of my core systems to the cloud, and I want to make sure that if something happened to one region, for example, I want to have a secondary region in order to keep the lights on, I would say. So in this example, for example, we have a SQL database. We are seeing that your replication supporting Azure SQL MI? The answer is no. You can use something called Autofillover Group. We are going to see this feature in a few also. But the most important thing is just to start to get what is a region, what is a zone, what are the difference in case that you want to protect your service, what are our options today. So in Azure we have what we call region, which is a data center, but also we have something called zone. So on each region we have up to 3 zones, meaning that if something happened to one region, we can just fail over to the region and that's it, to the one zone to another and that's it. Also we have, on this case, the one that we are seeing right now is, if something happened to the active region, we want to fail over from one region to another. Can we do that, as I mentioned in Azure SQL MI? Yes, Autofillover Group. I'm going to show you in a few some internal components, some options that you can choose, where do you need to point your application, among other things. But the most important thing is that, I want to protect my service from a region outage. Well, this can be one of the options, Autofillover Group, as I mentioned. Today, in case that we want to use multiple zones, is it supported today in Azure SQL MI? The answer is no. Is it supported in Azure SQL Database? The answer is yes. So in case that you want to protect your service from a zone outage, today this is not supported. What you can do is just to use Autofillover Group and protect your service from a region outage. So in case that something happened to the zone, or at least in where the Azure SQL MI is running, you can just execute a failover and boom, that's it. The second option, the one that I mentioned before, different zones. If you have this requirement that is mandatory because of some regulation or something internal, I would recommend to use Azure SQL Database or use a VM. The zone redundancy today is not supported yet in Azure SQL MI. You will have some news in a few, but not right now. Well, here's the thing. Every time that we talk about high availability, I heard a bunch of time, for example, concept like log shipping. Is log shipping today supported? The answer is no. The same for mirroring. In availability group, I would say that Autofillover Group is supported. Internally, it's an availability group, so it will be the same, I would say. We have a new and amazing feature called Azure SQL MI Link that I'm going to show you in a demo in a few how this works. But in case that you want to protect, what are your options? Well, the first one will be the internal HA, the secondary will be Autofillover Group, or the third one, in case that something happened and you need to restore a database, just restore it and that's it. Internal high availability. I mentioned before that we have something called internal HA. We talked about service tiers. So what are the differences in terms of HA between them? So the first one is that in general purpose, we have a pool of redundant nodes in where we have another service called Service Fabric that is monitoring your active nodes. So in case that something happened to the active one, if something happened here, Service Fabric will detect this and boom, there will be a failover and this node will be removed from your architecture and one node from the redundant pool will be moved automatically to the active pool. Do you need to do anything? The answer is no. Will there be any downtime? The answer is yes. Why will be downtime? Because it's a failover. Every time that you have a failover, there is downtime because you are closing the connections on the source, you are doing or you are writing the checkpoint, you are doing rollback in case I don't need anything, and boom, failover. And automatically this redundant passive node will be moved to the active pool, and that's it. This is how we are protecting general purpose. Important thing, Another difference that you have in general purpose over business critical is that the files, the database files, are pointed to a remote Azure storage account. So that is why we are seeing here Azure storage account. But what about in business critical? In business critical, we have this architecture. We have a 4 nodes availability group. This is the technology that it is being used behind bars. I'm going to show you in a quick demo that you will see, and you will notice that we are using availability group. We have the primary, we have the secondaries. I mean, is it possible to offload your reads to the secondary? The answer is yes, you can do that. This is something that you don't need to pay extra for this feature. It's automatically added. You don't need, for example, every time that you want to enable the read routing mechanism, you create the groups in case that you have more than one replica. Otherwise, you just create the endpoint and boom, that's it. You will have to use, obviously, application intent read only plus the initial catalog parameter just to do this redirection. But in Azure SQL MI, you just need to use those parameters and that's it. And automatically, the connection will be moved from the primary to the secondary, period. Will you be sharing resources between them? The answer is no, because if you have 4 cores in the primary, you will have 4 cores on the secondary, and that's it. You don't need to take care about that. It's amazing, honestly. We talked about how are we protect or how can we protect our service from a region outage. Well, Autofillover Group will be your solution. So Autofillover Group, again, internally it's using availability group. You will be protecting your Azure SQL MI in case that the primary region goes down. Automatically there will be a failover. We will see now some things that you need to consider for this particular feature, but the most important thing is that you will have to point your application to the read-write listener in case that you are doing writes, not only reads. If you use your read-only listener, you will be automatically pointed to the secondary region because you are going to use the secondary instance. But Gonzalo, for example, if we are using business critical, we will have 4 nodes, and if we use business critical on the secondary, are we going to use 4 nodes as well? The answer is yes, because I mean it doesn't matter that on the primary and the secondary you have the same tier. You are going to have exactly the same architecture in both sides. It's amazing because you can play with that. You can play with doing some selects on the secondary region using the read-only listener. It's amazing. Honestly, it's amazing. I mentioned about this Failover Group, the write listener, the read-only. I mean, here you have some information. The most important thing to consider is that we have this grace period with data loss parameter, the grace period. This parameter means that, I mean, today the synchronization between one region and the other one, it's asynchronous. It is not synchronous. Meaning that if something happened to the primary region, by default, you will have 60 minutes, or Microsoft will have 60 minutes until fix the issue. Otherwise, after 60 minutes, there will be a failover. So here's the thing. Are you going to lose data because of this? Well, the answer is possible. Because, I mean, you can do that because you are doing a forced failover because of this asynchronous mechanism. So you just need to know that if you are using this, the failover will not be automatically from one region to another one. There will be 60 minutes that Microsoft can fix this. And that's it. I wanted to mention this, which is very important, but at least you know. Some considerations, I would say that the most important one, I mean, the one that I mentioned before about the grace period, but also in case that you are using bring your own key in TDE, just make sure that before enabling Autofillover Group, just make sure that you are uploading the same key in both sides. Otherwise, Autofillover Group will not work. Can you use multiple secondaries? The answer is no. Today you can do primary and you can do secondary. Another thing to mention is that if you want to use, or if you are using the new Azure SQL MI link and you want to enable Autofillover Group, I mean, both things cannot work together, or you use MI link or you use Autofillover Group. You will not be able to use both of them. What is coming? The one that I mentioned, the one that I love, the one that I'm more excited about, which is Azure SQL MI Link and SQL Server 2022. Yes, I mean, there will be a bunch of new things in SQL Server 2022. You are going to listen a lot about a bunch of things, but the ones that I love, honestly, is this one, Azure SQL MI Link. Honestly, amazing job for the product team. Amazing job. Now you will be able to connect your VM in IaaS or on premises. You can connect this to Azure SQL MI. You can start by SQL Server 2016, 2017, 2019, 2022. You will be able to do this connection. It's amazing. How this is handled internally as of now by default. Automatic seeding will be used in order to do the synchronization between them. You will be able to execute read operations on the Azure SQL MI, and also in case that you are thinking on migrating, you will be able to execute a failover almost in real time. It's amazing. Honestly, it's amazing. What is used behind bar? Distributed Availability Group. This one was introduced in SQL Server 2016. This will allow you to connect to different clusters with different versions, Windows version, Linux, Windows, etc., etc. It's amazing, honestly. Yes, questions, always. If you have any questions, just feel free to reach out to me. But let's go to the funny stuff. Let's go to some demos. Let me see. Let's start. The first one, let me show you the internal high availability. So I am using this Azure SQL MI. Here you will see business critical. I am using 4 beakers. Let me show you very quick. What can we do? So I am using Management Studio 18 version. In case that you want to check whether you are connecting or just to use this internal HA in business critical, what you need to do here is just to is just use application intent read only, and also what I am using initial catalog. So this one is very easy in case that you want to offload your reads. It's very simple. You can use this application intent read only plus this initial catalog. Oops, I have a problem with my Management Studio. Sorry, one sec. And that's it. Honestly, it's very simple. One sec. That this one will reopen again. And that's it. Honestly, it's very simple. Then we will see that if we want to create a table, we will get an error. But this will be honestly automatically. You don't need to take care about anything. Let me just wait one more sec. Come on. Or otherwise, I can also show you. Well, in the meantime, let me open my CMD because I'm going to show you something similar with the internal HA. But let's start with this. You can, on the option, you just add the parameters that I mentioned. You click login, connect, and that's it. You don't need to take care about anything else. If I obviously execute a create operation, an insert operation, create table, let's say test Gonzalo. If I do this, obviously it will fail because I am in a read-only database. But also, let's see, for example, how do I really know that we are using this availability group that you mentioned? How do I really know that this is the architecture that you mentioned? So let's do one thing. Let's do a secondary demo. Now what we are going to see is that we are going to insert data, we are going to create some noise on the availability group synchronization, and I want to show you some counters that we normally use today in on-premises or infrastructure as a service just to monitor the lag of the synchronization. What I am going to use now is a tool very known, OSTress, just to wait 1 second, let me just move to the directory. Let me see. Oops. So let's go here, let me copy. 1 second. Let's see. Okay, now I am moving to the directory where the OSTress is, and then I'm going to run just to add some noise. Let me see if this one is working. Okay, what I am doing right now is very simple. I am just inserting data into a table. It's an insert select and that's it, very simple. I am executing this with 10 concurrent connection 50 times and boom, that's it. And this will start. Let me just move to AdventureWorks so I can show you what I am doing right now. As you can see, I'm using SP who is active. This is very known. You know this. And as I mentioned before, I am running insert select something. Okay, awesome. We are adding some noise. We know that we are running a bunch of threads, a bunch of connections, but let's monitor or let me show you what I mentioned before. So what I am using now, well, if you want to check how the internal availability group is, you can use this table here, which is HIDR fabric replica states. You will get the information that I'm going to show you right now. And as I mentioned, we have 4 nodes, as you can see here. We have 4 nodes. We have the secondary, we have the database, it's synchronization, it's healthy, everything is fine. But here you will see very known parameters, or I would say counter, not parameters, sorry. We have some counters. Every time that you want to monitor availability group synchronization, one of the things that I normally check is the status of the long send queue size and the redo queue size. This will be obviously a queue that it is showing, hey, I mean, we are sending data from the primary to the secondaries, or we are, I mean, or the bottleneck can be on the redo process on the secondary. Redo means that the log block travel from the primary to the secondary. That particular chain was written to disk, and afterwards the last part of the process is to read that particular log block from the disk and apply it to the database, and that's it. When we see redo queue size high, it means that, I mean, this queue, I mean, it's work that the secondary needs to do, needs to apply. These are changes that need to be applied on the secondary. This one is in KB by default. So as of now, we need to apply this number or this size, this KB size, to the database on the secondary side. And this is how we are seeing today that an availability group is being used, because I'm using business critical for my database. Other things that you can see in case that you want to identify that we are using availability group is that, for example, you can use this is the session wait stat where session ID equals, and let's use 140. This DMB will help you to identify what are the weights related to a particular session. And as you can see here, HIDR sync commit. This one is a weight related to availability group. Again, I show you different ways to identify that internally on the business critical tier, availability groups is being used as an architecture. Okay, this one is on the performance side, internal high availability. Okay, so now what we are going to see is the famous and beautiful Azure SQL Managed link. So let's start. Let me use here local, let me see, 1 second, localhost, oops, localhost. Okay, so now what we are going to do, let me create 1 second, let me create a database. Let's do the full step by step. So DPS test. Then we need to make sure that we are using full recovery model. We are going to create the database. What I'm going to do now is just to execute the first full backup, and that's it, in order to enable internally, because when you enable this, it will ask you for the first full backup. So we have our database. First of all, what do we need to do? We need to enable availability group on the source. How can we do that? Right click, properties, here, always on availability group, and you need to enable it. It doesn't matter that on the source you don't have availability groups enabled. So you need to take care about that. So I mean, what the most important thing is that it doesn't matter that, I mean, this node is part of a cluster. Okay, so we enable availability group. So let's start. We check that full recovery model was there. We also check about availability group, and here we have Azure SQL Managed link. This option appear starting Management Studio 18.2 version, if I am not wrong. You will start seeing this, and then what you need to do in order to start the process is just to click replicate database here, and here you will see some requirements that you need to enable before executing this. So here we have availability group enabled. We already saw that this is enabled. We are sysadmin on the source. We have 2 recommended trade flags. This one is related to the sector size of the storage. If you have, for example, different hybrid environments, you will see that there is a difference between the sector sizes for the storage in on-premises. And you will start seeing different messages on the error log in SQL Server, meaning that the I/O has been changed from asynchronous to synchronous, meaning that you will hit some performance issues because of this. And enabling this trade flag will eliminate those messages, and also it will prevent the SQL Server to change from this asynchronous to synchronous on the I/O side. The second trade flag, this one will allow you to send, I mean, this one is for automatic seeding. This will help to send the log blocks that you are moving from the source in on-premises areas to Azure SQL Managed compressed over the network. I mean, these are recommended. I mean, I will enable them just in case everything is green, obviously. 95.87. Also, you can do this using the service here, right click, properties, but I need to restart, so I don't want to restart. Here you can do this, for example, click add, click OK, and boom, that's it. Then you will have to restart your service. Let me rerun. I think that I did that or not. I think that I did this in Azure SQL Managed, sorry. Let's right click here, new query. Okay, sorry, my bad. So let's check it again, rerun, 95, sorry, 9567. Let's see. Okay. The secondary requirement is to create a database master key on the source database. I already did that. Let's click next. I am going to move the DPS test. We click next. I am going to sign in. Obviously, sorry, this will take some time because I need to connect to my account because I didn't do it before, I think. Let me see. This will take some seconds. Let's see. I will sign in. I will, yes, on my phone. Let's see, 1 second. Okay. That's it. It will refresh very quick. This will load the managed instance. This one is the one that I am using right now. Let me use the login, just 1 sec. Okay, I will click, connect, okay, click next. Now an automatic certificate will be created. You cannot, as of now, upload your certificate, as far as I know. Let me just click next. Let's see. And let's click finish. And the process will start. This will take a couple of seconds. What will happen right now is that a distributed availability group will be created on the source. You will see soon some information. The synchronization will start between the source and Azure SQL Managed, and we'll be able also to check on the distributed availability group the status of this Azure SQL Managed link. Okay, this one finished. Important thing, you are doing this, just make sure that you are also moving jobs or logging, because that process will not be automatically. So let me show you here, availability group. As you can see here, you have the distributed availability group. What you can do is just right click, show dashboard, and you will see how the synchronization is. Click here to login. I will sign in again. This one will be quicker and faster. I will click login. Again, the password. 1 second. And that's it. Login successful. We will see that, boom, everything is fine. As I mentioned, okay, we have asynchronous. We cannot change any availability mode, failover mode, anything. This one is by default. And also, let me see. Okay, yes, everything is fine. Everything is green. Okay. So we have the synchronization. Let me quickly let me show you that if I do the go create table Gonzalo let's say insert into Gonzalo values 1, 2, 3. Very simple. We'll create this. Okay, we created a table. If I refresh here, I have my database, I have my tables, and boom, the table is there. So almost real time, we have the table, we have the database, boom. Can we execute a read operation there? The answer is yes. Use DPS select star from Gonzalo. And that's it. We have On the source, the database, we have the table. In Azure SQL MI, we have the copy. Boom, that's it. But let's say that we want to execute a failover and we are thinking of doing a migration to Azure SQL MI and we are using Azure SQL MI link. Can we do a failover? The answer is yes. It's very simple, honestly. You just need to right click on the database. Again, the same option that before. We click failover. We click next. We will sign in again. Okay, subscription, nice. This one will be planned because we are just doing the normal movement. We confirm the workload is stopped because let's say that we are doing the migration. When we say, hey, we want to migrate right now, it's like, okay, we are stopping all of the sources that are pointing to the database, application, reports, anything that it is sending data to the database. Okay, we confirm that everything is stopped. We click next. Optionally, we can remove everything. We can just delete what is there. I mean, obviously, normally I try to delete everything because we are migrating. We click next. We click finish. Boom, the process will start. The process, as I mentioned, I mean, it will automatically switch because this one is planned. I mean, we are doing just a normal plan. That is why you are seeing switching Azure SQL MI to Synchronous, because if you want to do a normal failover, you need to switch to Synchronous, and that's it. Okay, so let me see first that here the distribute availability group disappear, and then let me just quickly refresh here. We have the database. It is accessible. Just in case, let's open a new query and let's create a table. Use the PS test, go create table Gonzalo 2 int. And I am now in Azure SQL MI and I was able to create a table, insert into Gonzalo, insert into Gonzalo values 1, let's say. I was able to create a table, I was able to insert data. Important thing, the database will still be here. Gonzalo, I want to move all of the databases together. Can I do that? The answer today is no. Today you can move, I would say, per database. So if you have 3, you will have to do this 3 times. But this is Azure SQL MI link. This is a new feature. It's amazing, honestly. If you don't want to migrate, you will be able to query directly to Azure SQL MI in order to do reporting. I mean, every time, I receive very often this kind of question that, hey, I want to offload my reads, but I don't want to create a cluster because this is a different architecture, some other components to maintain. I want to do this very simple. Well, this will be one of the ways. Okay. The last one, the last but not least, will be Autofillover Group. We already talked about it. Honestly, this will be very simple. The most important thing, so let's do one thing. I'm going to start by the end, creating the Autofillover Group. In the meantime, I'm going to explain what are the requirements. I mean, to create this, it is very simple. You just need to click here on the Failover Group. You need, for example, test listener. On the Failover Group name, I mean, this will be your listener name. So, I mean, if you want to use a name, so just be careful to put the name that you want. On the secondary, I'm going to use a secondary Azure SQL MI from a different region, as I mentioned before. Important thing is that, or at least try to have the same architecture that you have, I mean, on the primary, on the secondary. Don't try to use different service tier, don't try to use different vCores number because you want to save money. Just try to use exactly the same service tier, the same amount of resources that you are using on the primary, but on the secondary. Read-write failover policy, this is by default. And here we have our grace period, the one that I mentioned before. This hour that will have Microsoft to bring up the service again on the primary. You click create, boom, that's it. First, this will create Autofillover Group, it will start a synchronization, and that's it. Let's go to the requirements. The first one and most important, I would say, is that you will need connectivity. I think that something happened. I don't know if this one, okay, let me see, because I got an error. 1 second, let's troubleshoot this live. It's not empty. Okay, yes, well, let's start with requirements. One of the requirements is to have the secondary without any database, so it's nice because we are troubleshooting this. And let me see. One of the requirements is that the secondary must be empty. So let's remove the databases that exist here. The good thing is that we can troubleshoot this stuff live. So in case that you face the same problem in the future, you will be able to troubleshoot like I am doing right now. Okay, well, let's see. Let me just refresh this one. Okay, so we remove all the databases. Let's try this again. Let's go to the primary. Let's click Failover Groups. Let's click Add Group again. DPS Listener Test. Choose secondary. We create, and boom. Okay. And let's see. Let me see if we get any issue right now. Let's see the status. It's in progress. Nice. Okay, accepted. It started. Nice. Again, so let's go back. The requirements, well, the issue that we saw before, the secondary needs to be empty. The second one, you need to have the same amount of storage on the primary and the secondary, or otherwise you will see an issue like we saw before. The other one, very important, is that managed instance by default is built in with a VNet. This is one of the amazing features that Azure SQL Managed has, that by default is close to internet. But since we are using VNets, the thing is, what we need to consider is that we need to open the connection between them. So how can we do that? What can we use? Well, normally what I prefer is to use VNet peering, which means that the connection will be open between two different VNets. Also, you can use a gateway, but I normally honestly use peering because it's very quick, it's very simple. You click, let's go back. In order to enable this, you need just to click on the VNet itself, the one that is attached to your Azure SQL Managed. Then you click peerings here. As you can see, connected. But let me show you very quick how to do this. You need to choose a peering link name on the source peering, let's say. Then we have the remote peering or virtual network, remote virtual network. And here you can choose what will be the secondary VNet that you are going to connect. You click here, and then you click add, and boom, that's it. It's very simple, honestly. When you click apply or add, you will see this one, that you will be connecting your actual VNet to appear. In my case, VNet MI secondary Gonzalo, and everything is connected, which means that everything is working. Doing this, we are going to open the connection between the primary and the secondary. The second very important and critical step, because you cannot change this afterwards. I mean, when you create the service, that's it. The second most important thing that you need to enable in or to use Autofillover Group is this particular option whenever you create. Is that, I mean, okay, the resource group, you choose your managed instance name, your region, compute, or the service tier itself. The most important thing that you need to enable is this option. Use as failover secondary. Otherwise, Autofillover Group will not work. You need to click yes, and you need to configure which will be your primary. As you can see here, when you enable this, automatically this Azure SQL MI will be built on the same DNS zone as the primary. Otherwise, it will not work. You can open the connectivity, the connection between the primary and the secondary, but when you click create, you will see error and you will say, hey, what is going on? And the problem will be the DNS zone. So, important. It must be empty. You will have to use exactly the same storage, the same service tier. You need to enable connectivity between the primary and the secondary, and you need to enable the same DNS zone doing this while you are creating the secondary. These are the steps or the mandatory steps that you need to enable before creating the Autofillover Group. And that's it, and you are ready. Let's see the status of this. We click Failover Group. Okay, there is not Failover Group yet. Okay, it is being created yet. It will take, I think. That is why I was explaining everything before. Honestly, to connect this is very simple. You will have to use exactly the same thing that you're using today. Let's see. It's still running, deployment in progress. It's accepted, nice. Okay. Let's go to the primary again. So I mentioned, okay, what you need in order to enable this. Okay, nice. It's finished. Okay. So let's see, we have our primary, we have our secondary, we have the replication status, meaning that we are synchronizing. I mentioned before that you will not see here synchronized because we are doing the synchronization between one region and the other one. Here we have the read-write listener endpoint, the one that you will need to configure on your applications or on the sources that are going to write to your database. And here you have the read-only endpoint. What do you need to do? Well, you need to click here, and then if you want to test the connection, connection error. Okay, so let's see. Sorry for this. Nice, it came back. Let me now test 1 second. Let's copy. Okay, and I'm going to use exactly the same password that I was using on my original primary. I click connect and boom, that's it. I am on the primary Azure SQL MI. So here I have the primary and here I have my read-write listener. And that's it. Honestly, it's very simple. You will see here as an initial replication status like seeding when the synchronization is happening or synchronizing when the synchronization finishes. And that's it. Honestly, it's very simple. And that's it. If you want to execute a failover, you click here, you click yes, the failover will start. It will take some seconds to complete, and that's it. Do you need to change anything? Well, if you are using the read-write listener endpoint, the answer is no, you will not have to change anything. And that's it. The most important thing is that, well, here you will see failover in progress. And that's it. The failover is very simple. You can also use PowerShell to complete this. You don't need to take care about anything, just waiting for the failover. And that's it. As you can see now, the primary is the secondary, and the secondary is our old primary. And that's it. It's very simple, honestly. So going back, again, thank you. DPS, it was amazing time. Thank you very much. Thank you also to our sponsors, Microsoft. I love you very much. So thank you, team. I hope you see you soon. Have a good one.